Welcome and thanks for joining me. I've been playing around with my Glimmer Mists lately and I really like watercoloring with them. I've done it before and I thought I'd try to do it again on this card. So I'm just taking some plain old water and I'm painting on some stripes. And this is just some watercolor paper. I don't really know the brand. I think it's Strathmore, but it's a watercolor pad I've had for quite some time, so I thought I'd bust it out and try to do some Glimmer Mist watercolor painting. So, like I said, just a plain old water. I'm painting on some stripes because I want to do a stripe design on this background here. And it's kind of hard to see when you're putting on the water where the water is. So I'm going slowly. I'm trying to make some nice even stripes. So now I'm grabbing my Glimmer Mist, and this color is Wedding Pink. I've really enjoyed playing with this color lately. It's a really light pink and it's got some frosty shimmer to it, so it's really just a great spring color, and I've just been enjoying it. So I'm grabbing my flat brush again, and I'm going to be applying some color down on the water that I already applied. I find that applying some water first really gets the color moving and really gives it that watercolor effect. So I'm just trying to apply it evenly there to make some nice stripes. And I find it's when you're shaking up your Glimmer Mist, you want to shake it well so that you get all that shimmer incorporated into the color. But when you're shaking it, you always want to shake it side to side, not up and down, because if you shake it up and down, you might get some of that glimmer in your spray nozzle, and it could clog, and it's kind of a pain to try to get unclogged. So just remember to always shake it side to side and not up and down. So you can see my stripes are kind of bleeding a little bit, but I don't mind that look. I like the look of it a little bit messy, and I took my heat tool and I dried it up, and now I'm going to be taking some Dazzling Diamonds Glimmer Mist and just spraying that over the top. I did notice that when I sprayed some over the Wedding Pink, it did bleed a little bit and kind of move the colors around a little bit. So if you don't want that to happen, you either don't have to spray Glimmer Mist over the top, or you could maybe spray the Dazzling Diamonds first, dry it, and then apply your color. I just did it the other way around, and it didn't really bother me too much. I don't mind that look, so I went ahead with it. So I dried that up, and now I'm using a stamp set from Canvas Corp Brands. It's called Be Beautiful. It's got a lot of great sayings in it. I'm using the sentiment here on this card. I'm inking it up with some VersaFine Black Onyx ink. This ink is permanent, it's waterproof, and it shouldn't run if you use it with like Copics or watercoloring or anything. And I'm not really going to be doing any more water with this card, but I just wanted a nice black crisp sentiment. So then cleaning my stamp off with a baby wipe, and I noticed that my sentiment didn't really stamp as crisp as I wanted it. There were some areas that didn't fully stamp. So when that happens, I just go and I grab my Tombow Mono Twin permanent marker. And this marker is really great. It's got a thicker side and a thinner side. So here I'm just using the thinner side, and I'm going back in and I'm filling in any of those spots that didn't completely stamp. So now I'm moving on. I'm using my Avery Owls Peonies stamp set. I'm sure you've seen me use this a million times because I just love this stamp set. It's really versatile. It's got some great flower images and a lot of great sentiments. So I'm using my Versamark ink, and I'm going to be stamping these flowers and some leaves on a piece of vellum, and I'm going to be embossing it in white. So I'm taking my Ink-a-Dink-a-Doo embossing bag and just laying down a layer of powder, and that will help to have my embossing powder only stick to the ink when I apply it, because sometimes when you apply your embossing powder, the static kind of makes it cling in spots you don't want it to, and then it can be kind of a pain to get those little powders brushed off. Sometimes you can use your finger or a brush or something to brush away the powder you don't want. But if you use an embossing powder first, it really cuts down on that. So I'm just stamping up all my images. I've got my flowers stamped, and now I'm moving on to the leaves. And I always try to remember when I stamp images that I'm going to be die cutting, I need to leave a little bit of room between them so that I can get a good clean cut when I run them through my Sizzix. So I'm trying to space them evenly on this piece of vellum. So now I have all my images stamped, and I'm going to move on to the embossing. So I'm just grabbing a piece of paper to put behind my vellum. That will catch any extra embossing powder that will spill out. I'm just taking some white and applying it over my stamped images and tapping off the extra. And you can see, even though I use my embossing powder bag, there are some spots that are sticking. I'm not too worried about it sticking outside of the stamped images because I am going to die cut, but I wanted to come in and just clean up a few of them edges just so I get a really nice clean embossing. So now I've got my heat tool and I'm letting it heat up. If you want to prevent your paper from warping, you should let your heat tool heat up for a good 20-30 seconds. Depending on the heat tool you have. There are some heat tools that are better than mine and they heat up much quicker. So you might not have to let them heat up quite as long, but I let mine run for quite a while before I bring it to the paper to prevent warping. So I'm just embossing each image, trying to be quick with the heat tool because I don't want too much warping. And embossing powder does dry pretty quickly, but you want to give it a few seconds before you touch it or do anything with it because it can smear. Now I'm bringing in my Sizzix, and I'm going to be using those coordinating dies for the Peony stamp set, and just running it through my Sizzix to die cut them. I already have some washi tape stuck to my die cuts. I like to keep a piece with it when I put it away. That makes it just really quick to pull out my die cuts and stick them on and just run them through my Sizzix. And the washi tape, of course, just keeps it in place, so as you're running it through, the die cuts don't move around and you get a nice clean cut. So I'm cutting out the flowers, and I went ahead and cut out the leaves as well. Now I'm bringing in my papers that I want to use for my card. I'm using the base. It's just a piece of craft cardstock from Canvas Corp, and I'm also using that stamp set again. I put a little bit of a striped design down one side, and I used Versamark ink for that. So if you stamp with Versamark ink, it doesn't apply any color. It's really sticky, so it's great for embossing, but it also makes just a watermark type design. So it's really great if you want a really subtle stamping. So I'm kind of just taking my pieces and laying them out. I like to lay everything out when I'm trying to vision how I want the card, because I don't want to commit to cutting any of my pretty pattern papers before I know I want to use them, because I've done it before where I've wasted a piece of paper and I just really hate wasting my pattern paper. So I always want to make sure it's the way I want it to look before I go ahead and cut. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out where I want those flowers and leaves to go, and seeing if I think it looks alright. So I decided I was happy with that look, so I went ahead and I cut all my papers down to size. And I'm going to be adhering them on with Tombow's Stamp Runner adhesive. I've been using this adhesive lately and I really like it. This Stamp Runner adhesive has two features. First, you can use it like a regular tape runner, like I'm doing here, and then you'll see in a few minutes I'm going to use the stamp feature of it, and I'll explain more then. So now I am lining up my cardstock and putting it where I want it to go, and now I'm going to be using the stamp feature of this adhesive. So you just place it down, straight up and down on your die cuts or any small pieces you have, and you push down on that pink part, and it's kind of a stamping motion, and it leaves just like a little square of adhesive. So it's really great for these die cuts or any other small embellishments that you might have and you want to get really precise placement of your adhesive. It also works really great on this vellum because you don't really see it very well. Some adhesives are kind of hard to find that works well with vellum, and I found this one works pretty good. You can still see it a little bit, but I think the embossing on my die cuts really helps to hide it. So now I'm just placing all my flowers and my leaves around on my card, trying to arrange them the way I want them to go. And the other great thing about the stamp runner adhesive is it gives you a little bit of time before it dries permanent. So you can go back and sort of move it around a little bit. So that's really handy when you're trying to get your placements just right. So I decided I liked that look, so I'm going to go ahead and put some more adhesive on and just stick them down. Then I had all the die cuts stuck down, and I really liked how it was turning out. The card is almost pretty much done, but I wanted to go and add a few sequins for a little bit of bling. So I'm taking some of these sequins. They're by Doodled Bug Designs. I got a pack that has, I don't know, like 9 or 10 different colors, and I really like it. I'm just going to adhere them with a little bit of Aleene's Tacket Glue. And first I'm just taking some of them sequins and laying them out to see where I might want them to go, and making sure the placement looks good. And I'm switching out some of those matte sequins with some that are a little bit more shiny because I want more bling on this card. So I thought I liked the way those are laying out, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little dot of glue where I want them to go. And this Aleene's glue does dry clear, so right now it's white, but after it dries you won't see it. Now I decided I had a little bit too much glue right there, so I'm just taking a dry baby wipe and wiping a little bit away. I didn't want it to smush all out when I put my sequins down. So it was a pretty fast, easy card. Kind of shows how you can do a little bit of watercoloring with Glimmer Mists, and I'm sure I'll be doing more creating with that in the future. So thank you for watching, and have a great day. Bye.